Okay guys, so today we're going to evaluate the composition of functions, and it's basically what we did this week, except now it's like doing two problems in one. So let's just review what we have done already this week. We've taken a function with this fancy f of x notation, and all we did was plug in some numbers or letters. So this is find f of -1. That means I'm taking the 10 x cubed plus 4x squared minus 2x, and I'm replacing the x's. Okay, I put parentheses. It makes my life easier, especially when I'm putting it in my calculator, and I am plugging in the -1. So I'm going to put a -1 there, -1 there, -1 there, and then I put all of this in my calculator exactly the way that I wrote it, and I get -4. Okay, if you didn't get -4, okay, double check your negatives. Okay, make sure they are in parentheses because that's going to matter. It will definitely change your answer. Okay, so again, this is called composition of functions, and the way that you read this notation here is f of g of x. So now there's two functions. And it also, sometimes you might see it written like this, f of, that little circle is an of, g of x, like that. But typically, okay, or oftentimes I feel like we see it more like this. So now I'm going to be given two functions. So listen carefully. It says, given the functions p of x is this, so this is one function, and h of x is x squared, that's another function. It says, find a h of p of 3. H of p of 3. So I'm going to do the innermost parentheses first. So I'm kind of going to ignore the h for right now, and I'm going to do p of 3. So I'm going to take p, which was this one here. Okay, so I'm going to take x plus 2. I'm just going to write it down. And I'm going to plug in 3 for x. So 3 plus 2 is 5. Now I'm not done. Now I have to do h of 5. So now I have to do h of what I got here, which was 5. So over here, okay, h is the x squared. Okay, I'm going to plug in my answer that I got for p of 3, which was 5, and I'm going to plug it in here. So now I have 5 squared is 25. So my final answer then would end up being 25. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. It's double substitution. I plugged in the 3 for p, and then my answer was 5, and I plugged that in for h. Again, the innermost parentheses come first. If we look at the second example, it says find h of p of -1. So again, I'm going to do p of -1. So remember, p was the x plus 2. Okay, so x plus 2, I'm going to put in -1, and I'm going to get +1. Now I'm going to take this 1, and I'm going to plug it in to x squared. So now I get 1 squared, which ends up just being 1. Okay, let's try another example. So this is given the functions p of x equals x minus 1, so that's one function, x minus 1, and h of x, which is -3x. Find p of h of 0. So that means I'm going to take h first. Okay, h is here, the -3x. I'm going to take -3x, and I'm going to replace the x with 0. -3 times 0 is 0. And now I take my answer and I do p of 0, which means now I have to, in x minus 1, I have to plug in 0. So 0 minus 1 is -1. So my final answer is this. I'm plugging in 2 times. When it's a composition, it's double substitution. Okay, so it's doing what we did earlier in the week, but 2 times. Let's try the letter B. Find p of h of -2. So I'm going to plug in -2 into h, okay, which was -3x. I get +6, and now I take the +6 and I plug it into p, which is x minus 1. So instead of x, I'm going to put in my answer, which was 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. Okay, if you have to pause and rewind and really watch, that's totally fine. I hope you're doing that. All right, just going to go through some more examples. Hopefully it just becomes easier and easier with each example. Find f of g of 1. So innermost parentheses first, I'm going to plug in to g, which happens to be a fraction, but it's not that bad. I'm going to plug in 1 minus 4 divided by 3. Okay, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So negative 3 over 3 is negative 1. So I get that for my first substitution. And now I'm going to take the negative 1 and I'm going to plug into the other one, into f. So I get 3x plus 5. And again, I'm taking this answer now, the answer that I got for the first part, and plugging it in, negative 1. And so now when I put that in my calculator, or I do it the old-fashioned way, in my head I get positive 2. For the next example, I have f of g of negative 2. So again, I'm plugging into g first because that's what's the innermost parentheses. I'm plugging in negative 2, okay, for g, which is this one over here. So I just replace this x with the negative 2. And when all is said and done, this is negative 6 over 3, which is negative 2. And now I'm going to take that negative 2 and plug it in for f, which is the 3x plus 5. Okay, I'm sorry if my writing's a little bit sloppy. I'm trying to get used to a new stylus. Okay, and I'm plugging in the negative 2, and then negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. So my final answer is negative 1. All right, so for the last 2 slides, I added in some variables. I know we kind of did those separately. I'm going to put them in here, and if we have some trouble, we could always revisit it. Okay, but try your best to just follow along. So now I'm still doing 2 substitutions, but I'm plugging in now letters. So f of g of x. So that means I have to take g first because it's the innermost. Okay, and I have to replace x with x. This was the one that I said was kind of redundant. I'm plugging in x for x, so I get x minus 4. Now that's my answer to the first part. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to plug it into f, which is here. Okay, so instead of 2x plus 5, I'm going to replace that x with x minus 4. And now, just like we did the other day, we just have to simplify. We have to distribute and combine. So this ends up being 2x minus 8 plus 5. I'm going to combine my negative 8 and 5, and I get 2x minus 3. Okay, again, rewind that if you have to. Okay, so this will be our last example, and then I have one more little problem after. This says f of g of 2x. Again, a little bit on the more challenging side, but if you just follow the procedure, take 2x and plug it in for g of x first. So g is this bottom one here. I'm going to replace that x with a 2x. So I just get 2x minus 4. Now I'm going to take 2x minus 4 and I'm going to plug in for f. So f is 2x plus 5. So instead of the x, I'm putting in my answer to the previous one, which was 2x minus 4. So again, we're going to distribute. We get 4x minus 8 plus 5, which is 4x minus 3. Okay, so this is just saying, given these functions, where did Miss Basili make a mistake when she evaluated g of f of negative 1? So you would look through this. Hopefully you'll pause it right now, look, see what the mistake is. Okay, and if you're looking carefully, the problem is that I plugged in the negative 1 to g first. Okay, I plugged in negative 1, okay, which is the right number, but I plugged it into g first, which is this one. But remember, the innermost parentheses, I need to plug it in to the f first. So if I do this the right way, and I plug in the negative 1 to the f, okay, I get 15 here, and then I plug in 15 here. This is the right answer, okay, here. you end up getting, after you put this in your calculator, you get a big number, 199. So the mistake was that I plugged into the wrong function first. All right, hopefully you understand this and you can go to the Delta Math and complete that assignment.